All right, everybody, back, brand new Cabral Concept. We're here on how to know if you're low in vitamin D3 even without testing. I'm going to give you the 7 most common signs, but why am I talking about vitamin D, especially as we're moving into spring? I can tell you right now that even in the summertime, when I was in Boston, Massachusetts, summertime, peak sun, it is hot, you can definitely get a tan, right? But only 3 out of 100 people in my practice would test within the sweet spot of 50 to 70 or 50 to 80 nanograms per milliliter of vitamin D3. So I'll just refer to it as the 50 to 70 zone. So that means that conventional medicine on regular blood work might have said that they were fine if they were 35 or 37. I can tell you, yes, you're not in danger of getting rickets, right? Or leading to other bone-based issues, but that doesn't mean that it's optimal because vitamin D3 is not just a vitamin, it acts as a hormone in the body. It literally regulates and helps to improve your immune system. It helps to work on overall hormones, and that includes thyroid and metabolic-based hormones as well, so it works for weight loss, inflammation, your mood and neurotransmitters, as well as cancer-based surveillance. And if you caught my Friday review just a couple weeks ago, you also heard me hear how, yes, it works on depression, but we know now that it is a longevity-based hormone and vitamin because those people with the most optimal vitamin D were associated with at least a 40% reduction in dementia and dementia risk. So it's pretty important. I mean, that was literally, it's one vitamin, right? So it's so important that we are adequate. And yes, you should test for it ideally. But the truth is, you might not be testing for it every 3 months or every 6 months. Maybe it's just once a year. So keep it in mind throughout the year. Are you starting to feel these symptoms? And my goal is that most people need supplementation all year round. I didn't realize that until about 15 years ago when I started testing everybody in my practice for vitamin D3. And that's when I found that, oh, even in the summertime, why? People are mostly inside Monday through Friday. Sure, they get some sun on the weekends, but also a lot of people, when they are outside, they're putting on a lot of suntan lotion. And so what does that mean? Well, they're basically still inside, right? Because their skin is being blocked by a layer that is not allowing them to get that tan. No tan, no vitamin D. I mean, that's basically how it works. That's not necessarily a bad thing. I understand that a lot of people are trying to prevent photo aging from the sun. I get it. But there are downsides. The downsides are that you don't get your vitamin D, you don't get that immune-based boost. It's not the only thing the sun gives us benefit, but we'll save that for another time. So other reasons that your vitamin D might be low is you spend a lot of time indoors or you wear sunscreen when you're outside. You're not maintaining a tan. It's very difficult for anybody above the Atlanta, Georgia line except for, call it June, July, August, September, to get a high vitamin D levels anyways. Sure, if you're in Southern Georgia, Florida, Southern California, you can probably maintain a tan year round. There's no doubt about that. And you might not need vitamin D. Totally agree with you. Like completely agree. I just know you're also not going to be able to get it from food. That's unremarkable in any way. Never seen it been able to happen. And those people that get it from vitamin D2, it's synthetic, not good for the liver, not good for the brain. We test for vitamin D2 as well. Not ideal. Again, but today is how not to test for it. So I'm going to give you all of those. Another part of it is this: is a lot of people have liver-based issues. It could be non-alcoholic fatty liver or other liver inflammatory issues. Well, a lot of the vitamin D is conjugated. It's actually transformed in the liver. So you basically are using cholesterol, using vitamin D3 from the sun itself, and you're converting it in the liver. Other cells as well, but mainly the liver itself. So that's really important to look at. Other inflammatory-based issues can be a factor in vitamin D demand, just like high levels of gut issues or heavy metals or viruses can demand a lot of zinc, right? And so you can go through, like, I'm taking zinc. Why am I still low? Well, there's just a high demand for it. That's why. So there can be a high demand for B vitamins when you're under a lot of stress, right? So that can be why you could still be low. Another reason is that if you have inadequate magnesium as a cofactor, that's very important. Oftentimes we like to say K2 is a factor, and I think that that could be needed. And then you don't need to go overboard, but most people could use some good healthy fat in their diet. We like monounsaturated fats, as one of those best sources. Very clean, it's anti-inflammatory, and that would mainly be olive oil or avocado. You don't need a lot, 2-3 tablespoons of olive oil a day, half to a whole avocado. It's a great place to start. All right, let's get into now the signs and symptoms of if you might be low in vitamin D3 without testing. We'll just call it vitamin D going forward. The first one is this: it's immune-based patterns. What does that mean? Well, it's the symptoms of you starting to get frequent or lingering colds. That's a big one. So you get a cold and you don't kick it within 3 to 5 days. Instead, it's more like 10 to 14 to 21 days. That's a really good sign that your vitamin D3 levels might be low. Before I now give you the disclaimer, because we're talking about sicknesses and colds, can't provide any medical advice, medical treatments, medical cures, medical diagnosis. All right, now I can go on. So slow recovery, that's a big one for me. The second one is this: lower mood, especially seasonal affective disorder during the wintertime. No sun, no vitamin D, low mood, depression, it's an issue. We like to use the bright lights, so the seasonal affective disorder lights, but also vitamin D3 and zinc. Zinc has been shown to lower depression. You don't even need a lot, 25 to 30 milligrams of zinc per day. Pretty amazing in the studies as well. I would also put brain fog and low motivation, especially in the winter, in the low vitamin D category. The next one for me is muscle and bone-based patterns. Muscle aches, slower recovery from workouts, muscles kind of feel inflamed longer than they typically would. That's a big one. Bone tenderness or more back aches and pains could be lower vitamin D3. Again, all of this may be exacerbated during the winter times, especially in the northern climates, like where I'm from, the Boston, New England, Maine-based category. Certainly that could be an issue. So that would again, you can't get vitamin D3 during the winter. It's impossible. So you have to say, am I just not going to supplement with it, or am I going to? And that's the choice is always yours. As an adult, you get to make that choice, but also for your children, it's at least something worth exploring. My kids have gotten vitamin D3 from a very young age, a small amount, right? And so we look at all these things, and very grateful that I have beautiful, happy, healthy children. So just going to try to keep it going. That's the goal, right? For any parents. All right. The next one is energy and fatigue. That's another one for me that I'm always looking at is, does your energy begin to slump and decline, especially with lack of sun? So feeling flat rather than energized or ambitious can be linked to vitamin D. Now, you could say, well, it could be low thyroid. It could be lower testosterone. It could be lower levels of dopamine or norepinephrine or cortisol. Totally get it. All of that is true. But one of the things that helps to regulate all of those is vitamin D. So yes, it can absolutely be something else, and I don't disagree with that. Very rarely in life is there a panacea of one supplement, one food, one exercise. Whenever someone tries to share that with you, like, oh, nicotine is the cure to this virus and this, and that. But just keep in mind that it's never the case, right? There's a cascading event when the body doesn't get enough vitamin D. Then levels of testosterone can fall. Levels of thyroid can fall. We can get imbalances between estrogen and cortisol. All of that happens as well. Do we just then need to take D3? No, we've now created other problems. So those need to be fixed. So again, there are a lot of factors. Or we're consuming a lot of fried or saturated based foods, and now we have inflammation in the liver. Or we're on a high processed food diet. We have inflammation now in the liver. Now we can't convert the vitamin D3 we're getting from the sun or supplementation. What do? Well, we can't just take more vitamin D3 because that's more than toxic, right? So what do we need to do? Okay, now we need to fix the liver first, right? So again, there is a cascaded event. I talk about this a lot in my new book, Personomics, and even in the Rain Barrel Effect, my first book as well, which you can check out. All right, next ones I want to go through are hormonal and inflammatory cues and clues. So if you have an autoimmune disease and you have not looked at your vitamin D3, it is essential. Anyone with autoimmune issues, we don't want vitamin D too high. We don't want it too low. I always want it, if I can, in the 60s. That is the sweet spot for me, helping people with autoimmune issues right there. You can make a case for 80 or above, but not usually with autoimmune. And the reason is that it may push the immune system too much. So if you're going to go for a higher dosage, I'm not against that if it's under the care of a qualified practitioner and they're doing it for a very specific reason. They know why. Because if you already have an exaggerated immune response and you push your vitamin D in your immune system higher, that could be a bad thing, right? So usually it's not a vitamin D complete deficiency, right? You need to optimize it. And then for the autoimmune issue, you need to work on stress, gut dysfunction, toxicity, metals, etc. All right? All right, so that's a big one. What else did I want to share with you? Worsening of symptoms in the inflammatory-based responses, especially during the lower sun months, the gray months, the winter months, right? That's a nice one. Okay, so those are my main ones. I kind of lumped them all together. I think I gave you 8 or so instead. Those are the main signs and symptoms. The biggest ones as a recap would be frequent colds or colds that last longer than expected, which would be 2 to 3 weeks. That is an extended length of time for the immune system to overcome something. That to me, one of the biggest tips. The second one is the low mood, more towards depression. I would immediately begin to supplement with vitamin D3 or, of course, test my levels. I know I always go back to that, but it's because my whole philosophy is like, don't guess, test. And that's what, Personomics is about. But I also want everybody to access this information and begin to find the right dosage, which I'll give you in a moment in just a second. And the last one is the overall energy and inflammation. So if I bucket it into 3, that's what I would say. All right, so then what do we want to talk about? Well, first is if you then start to feel better in the summer when you get a tan, most likely it's it's sunlight, which helps the mood, and it's real vitamin D3. So during the winter months, we need to get you a light box that you put on for 15 to 20 minutes on your desk or on your sink. It has to be within like a foot and a half of you. And you take your vitamin D3 every morning at breakfast, right? So then good, we'll do that during the winter because you might not be able to move. I totally get that, right? And so that's fine. The second is that I can tell you from running tens of thousands, maybe over 100,000 stress mood and metabolism tests, which include the vitamin D3, that most adults need 5,000 IUs a day. I can just tell you that. To end up in the 60s nanograms per milliliter, you need 5,000 IUs a day. Some a little bit less, some a little bit more. But that seems to be the exact dosage. It's not 10,000, and certainly it's not 50,000 once a week. You don't want to do that because then this could pull more calcium into your bloodstream. There's a time and place for everything, by the way. I'm not talking about that. You might have come down with a particular virus and you're taking a big dose all at once for a particular reason. That could be your philosophy. I'm not against it. I'm not saying that though. I'm saying on a daily basis. I'm not a mega dosing individual. What we're looking at is that's about the right dosage in our practice. Then for kids, it's about 35 IUs per pound of body weight. That's what it seems to be. And so what we typically do, and is just because you just need rough estimates, right? You don't have to get this perfect, is if you just do the math here, it's about 1,000 IUs to about 1,500 or so for most young children. And that doesn't mean 3 years old. It means more in the 6 to 12 age range. And then you can also, if you decide to test when a child does blood work, most kids obviously don't like a needle in their arm blood draw, but you can do an individual blood draw as well for vitamin D3. I can link that up today. You can do it right at home. It's just a finger prick and you put a couple of drops of blood on a card. Let's see, which today's episode 3688, StephenCabral.com/3688. We'll link it up right there. You can test your vitamin D3 that way. You can also test it with all your other hormones like thyroid at the stress mood and metabolism test. But also, again, I can't not say to test, but here's what I want to share with you. Once you find the right dosage for you, it's pretty much always going to be that way. That's the nice thing. You might be up 3 or 4 points one time, down 3 or 4 points, but you're going to be within the range that's right for you. And that's an amazing thing in terms of knowledge and power. But today's show is dedicated to those people that can't run any labs. They're not able to. Vitamin D3 is a very inexpensive supplement. You can take it with K2 or not. Truthfully, if you're taking a daily activated multi or the daily nutritional support over at Equalife, it contains the K2 already. So you can save a little bit of money and just do your vitamin D3 at the 5,000 IU as an adult, maybe 1,000 IUs for kids over 40, 50 pounds. And then what you'll want to do is at some point when you run your blood work, you'll run your 25-hydroxy vitamin D and you'll be able to see what your number is based on at least 4 to 6 weeks of taking that dosage every single day. and you can take it in the morning. That's the best time to take it. And then you'll know for sure what the right dose of vitamin D3 is for you. But in the meantime, check out the symptoms. If the symptoms match up, it might be time, no medical advice, but it might be time to begin supplementing with vitamin D3. Take care, everybody. Have an amazing rest of your day. Of course, if the show was helpful, do feel free to share it with anyone you believe could serve. All the links to the testing, and I can't link up the supplements. The supplements are at stephencabral.com/shop. You don't have to get them there, but you can at least see what we use in our practice. And that's that. All right. Take care, everybody. Have an amazing rest of the day. Bye.